posted, I guess, on like Facebook. I feel like such a boomer. I will post this on Facebook. Signed, Grandma.
Okay, okay, this is
so much going on.
Okay, it's live on YouTube right now, but there's a delay, so I'm gonna have to get the link and then. Oh gosh, okay, I'm gonna have to close down the YouTube because now we're not gonna be able to see. Oh, there are comments. Okay.
So wait, hold on, let me see. Yes, there are comments. I'm so old. Wait, are you sure it's the Scream Queen? What in the world?
I don't know what's going on there.
I'm a part of a harem trying to convert them to non-belief and take over the land, causing 1,000 years of war. That's true. That rumor is true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was gonna try to text Deborah, Crucifying the Bible, but I can't find my phone, so whoops. Which is pretty bonjour. This is so fun. The fact that I'm one of anyone's favorite religion commentators is my life could end right now. It's fine. It's great. Love it. Hi, I love you all very much. I'm sure Dan does too. We're both so everyone knows I am like mostly asymptomatic, but did test positive for Kofifi like 3 times. So if I seem a little bit like it's because I am, but also I'm mostly fine. I'm just letting everyone know I've just been asleep most of the day and also have taken a lot of cold medication, which I feel like probably doesn't work for COVID, but it was the only thing I had in my house. And
you know what?
So
that's as close as I get to being high these days, is taking cold medicine. And so I embrace every opportunity for that. There are 2 things I look forward to, the cold medicine high and then taking NyQuil and just crashing.
Oh my God.
Getting up after a long NyQuil-induced coma is one of the greatest feelings in the world. So
full stop, like no notes, 0 out of 10, to quote the Dan McClellan. I mean, so I have trazodone that I'm prescribed to sleep because otherwise I don't really sleep. Yeah. I mean, I do a little bit, but not a lot and not enough.
It's not good sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And I can only take it when I don't have something to do in the morning because I don't want to miss that thing that I was supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah. There's a fog you got to get through to get out of.
Right. Or I just won't wake up, which is like honestly ideal, but not when I have something to do in the morning. Personally, I don't want to wake up, but like, as it turns out, I have class. So unfortunately, I have language class 3 days a week at 8:30. And by unfortunately, I mean, I chose this, but also.
Now you have, and I want to hear about this a little bit more. Last time we spoke, your semester hadn't started yet, but now you're in the thick of it.
Oh, it started.
You're taking biblical Hebrew at the University of Chicago.
Big mistake.
How is that going? There you go. You got the sweatshirt already. I have Oxford gear. I was just in I feel
like that is more impressive.
Well, you know, I got to be like, yeah, I did a degree there 13 years ago. So, but I don't have.
Right. Because Exeter. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. In my brain, I was like, same, not same.
I don't have a single piece of apparel from my second master's degree at Trinity Western University. And I don't have a single piece of apparel from Exeter University. Although my supervisor was like, just let me know what you want. I'll get you a sweater.
I was about to say, get Francesca on the horn. Like, and I talked about her a little bit, not by name, in my class the other day. So much to discuss. Anyway, waking up from anesthesia was one of the best highs of my life.
There's folks who have had colonoscopies. they put you under for that.
I
And
hope
I don't
so.
know the name of the drug that they give you, but everyone I've ever talked to who has gone through that has said that was the greatest period of sleep they've ever experienced. Like it's the best nap that has ever been. So
Yep. Someone just asked for our topic, and it's
yeah.
colonoscopies. So,
Well, right now I want to hear a little bit more about
Yes.
how Hebrew class is going. However, I do want to open up the floor for questions. I already got one about the New World Translation that we can get to later. We want to jam a little bit. We also want to respond to questions.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, by we, I mean, I'm going to tell you how Chicago is in my COVID haze, and you are going to answer questions because good Lord knows I'm not. Anyway, hi friends. So yes, I am. How is Hebrew going? My Hebrew teacher is a PhD student, not surprisingly. It is his first time teaching a class. He is an incredibly kind, lovely human being that went to BYU. Yeah,
really?
yeah. I looked him up the other day. I don't know why. I because I'm a stalker and weird, but like, went to BYU.
You should message me his name. I probably know him.
I can tell you right now, but I won't. His last name, actually, no. You know what? I'll message you. I feel like I might be doxing someone accidentally, and I'm not trying to do that because he's great.
Yeah,
like, anyway, it's a dead language, and it's a first-year teacher. So I don't know. That's effectively how it's going. However, I will say this. My advisor is Jeffrey Stackert, which is like the weirdest sentence I've ever said in my life. Like I cannot explain how bizarre. I don't know. Like I cannot explain how wild it is that like Jeffrey Stackert was helping me sound out Hebrew words 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Like never in my life did I think that would be like a string of words that would come out of my mouth. Never.
Well, it's just the beginning. If you continue on and you get a PhD, you're going to have a lot more experiences like that, and you're going to be interacting with everybody in the field. I still remember the first time as an undergraduate I went to SBL, and I was going to ask you, are you planning to do SBL this year?
So I need to apply for special funding because generally speaking, I'm broke. As one is when they're a student. Oops. So I need to do that. If I get the special funding, I would absolutely love, obviously, to do that, but I don't have a good answer yet.
Understood. But that once you are going to these conferences, you're participating in the field, you'll get to know all of the all of the celebrities in biblical studies, and you'll have a lot of great fun stories to tell. So this is just the beginning of that.
So long as somewhere is going to let me in for a PhD for getting not an A in Intro to Hebrew, because Lord, this is an experience for all of us. I'm not going to lie, for me, for him, for everyone else. But like, so like, this is why I didn't say his name, but like a little like fun story is we had a midterm. And I left the midterm and went home and cried. Because I was like, I actually feel like I was just reading like Chinese. Like I don't actually, like I know that was Hebrew because I recognized like the letters, but like, and so that was the thing. And then, go ahead.
You're just starting out too. And once you're starting out learning a new language that uses an entirely alien script, you just have to put in the reps, and it's going to take a while before it's something that you are able to recognize without having to think about. You'll get there. You'll get there. You just gotta.
We had like a study guide, and one of the sort of sentences. Now, let me say this: sentences after being in class for 4 weeks. We are on a quarter system. Like there is no, like, I'm not saying this to you. I'm mostly saying it to everyone else and also to myself because I feel insane. Like we're on a quarter system, which means that we have class 3 days a week, and every single day we have class, we are responsible for having learned one chapter of the textbook.
Mm-hmm.
I have studied multiple languages, and like, again, I understand, and I've said this, that I am at the University of Chicago, so like, it is what it is, like, but also that's a lot. Like, we literally studied pronominal suffixes for one day before the before the midterm.
Yeah.
Every single question on the midterm had to do with pronominal
suffixes.
Yeah. outside of like, we did some syllabification, like, all right, but it was like, that was like 4 questions, and there was like 4 pages of like, and also, this is also very funny to me, and I mean funny, the way I mean funny when I talk about my childhood, which is traumatizing. It was like, hey, parse everything for all of those 4 pages. And we had not been asked to parse anything ever before that.
Oh gosh.
Again, I cried. So
what's your textbook?
It's Joanne Hackett, Dr. Joanne Hackett.
Okay, yeah.
And honestly, the textbook's pretty good.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She and John Hunegard are some of the heavyweights, and I applied to go do my PhD with them at the University of Austin many years ago, and did not get in. Or University of Texas at Austin.
I bet they are regretting that at this moment.
Doubtful, but but they were at Harvard before that. But yeah, I'm sure that's a great textbook. But yeah, you need to have appropriate guidance to be able to get the
it is a good textbook.
Momentum going.
Yeah, it's a good textbook. But unfortunately, or whatever, fortunately, I don't know. Like, if the textbook was the only thing you needed to learn a dead language, we would all know dead languages. Yeah,
it would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time by people who want to study Hebrew what they can do. And it's like, there are all kinds of textbooks out there. There's some that are free online. You have YouTube channels where you can get dozens of those. You can pay $300 to $800 for like a little course through Logos or something like that. And a lot of those are great, but you really have to be motivated and disciplined, and you've got to be the one putting in the work. There's nothing like school deadlines to motivate you to study vocabulary and things like that. Because if I didn't have quizzes and finals and things like that, I never would have studied vocabulary. But that's what has me on my little Quizlet app, sitting on the toilet going, okay. Like, without those deadlines, it is difficult for me to focus on language. So
I mean, yeah, there are people out there who, like, I guess, are very special and can, and I don't mean that rudely, I mean that jealously, that like can motivate themselves in these ways, but it's not me. It's not me. I wish that it was, truly.
Well, I hope you are enjoying getting to peek under the hood of the Hebrew Bible as you're picking up the Hebrew language.
I am. Good. So the other thing about finally my my quarter. I keep calling it that, and everyone keeps telling me it's actually a quarter. I know. Okay, I'm living through it. All right.
Yeah.
This is a war zone. Anyway,
I had to get used to terms in Oxford. It was like, it's Michaelmas term, and I was like, okay, look, I'm not doing Michaelmas. You have Michael Mass is what the first time I saw it written. That's what I said, and they were like, it's pronounced Michaelmas.
Like, I thought it was just I had COVID, but no, this is something else. High Tux TV. Also, what? Nickel?
Yeah, they have you have terms over there, and a Trinity term, Michaelmas term, and I think that's
what does that mean? Like,
I don't know. That? It's Hillary term is the last one. Hillary term, Trinity term, and Michaelmas.
Sorry,
those are the.
you broke up. Actually, I'm not joking.
Oh, okay. Am I back?
You're back. Yeah. It was
Okay.
just like weirdly spotty. Like you weren't gone. I just couldn't make out exactly what you said.
Oh, okay. I'll get a little closer to my mic here.
No, you're good.
So there are 3 terms, and each term has a name.
Okay.
Trinity term, Hillary term, and Michaelmas.
Trinity.
And then you have, what's that?
Trinity is all 3. Just kidding.
No,
Anyway.
Trinity is just the name of one.
Bad joke.
But then there's like a month off in between each one. So that's the vacation time there is great.
I mean, I can't relate, but it sounds lovely. What does that even mean? Anyway.
I wanted to get back to the question on New World Translation. Not a great translation. Very idiosyncratic. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot of dogmas that they bring to their translation of the Bible, and they make quite an effort to study the language and to develop arguments for their preferred readings, but they are very idiosyncratic, rarely align with the scholarly consensus. So yeah, the New World Translation is not one that I would recommend.
Loosely related, I am taking an Intro to Hebrew Bible class, which at first glance I thought, meh. I was very wrong.
Yeah.
And I am ashamed of myself. Like I am capital A ashamed. And also like kudos to Stackert for not just like reading me for filth when I was like, what is this class? And like I consider myself to be like relatively self-aware. At least I try to be, right? Like I do really try to be like, I am not an expert in any of this, and therefore like I expect that literally everyone knows more than I do. In any event, Intro to Hebrew Bible is a misnomer, at least here. I'm taking it, and we talked about it with Simeon Chevelle, and he is brilliant. Like, just I don't have a better word. He's not listening, so I'm not like sucking up. I'm just like legitimately like So okay. During my advising appointment, I went in. I almost passed out because I was like, "Oh my god, it's Jeffrey Stackert." Hi, how are you doing? With your little maroon bike, so cute. Anyway, I was talking about classes, blah 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 blah, and he said, "When I have like an idea about something or like something I want to think about or write about or like whatever, which is what an idea is." Sorry, I'm talking to myself. He was like, "I run it past Dr. Chevelle, and if he gives me the thumbs up, I know I've really hit on something. But if he like looks at me kind of weird, I don't remember his exact verbiage, but it was like, I'm embarrassed and I like go back into my hole." That was not what he used, the words, but like that was the general concept. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. I had really only heard Dr. Chevelle talk like once, so I was like, okay, I believe you. And I get it now. I get it now. Yeah.
And you'll have that experience more and more as you meet a lot of other folks. It's unreal how many of these people are genuinely just geniuses.
So part of my Intro to Religious Studies course with Stackert, he brings in other scholars from the Div school. And every single time, he calls them interviews. Basically, they just come in, they tell us about what they do, and then people can ask questions. Like, it is an interview, but also like, what? Every time I'm like, how am I here? I'm an idiot. So like, what's happening right now? And I don't mean that as like a fish. I just mean like, what? One of my TAs who I'm friends with and who I like constantly am like, I feel like I scammed my way in here, tells me admissions is never wrong. He says admissions are never wrong. If they let you in, you deserve to be here.
You deserve to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The imposter syndrome doesn't go away. I still suffer horribly from imposter syndrome, and like I have a review panel for my book that will be at SBL, that I'm going to go respond to folks like Saul Olyan and Esther Hamori and Jennifer Singletary.
Absolutely.
And I have no business being there in my mind.
You're wrong, but yeah.
And there's other news that will come out at SBL that I have to keep under my hat right now. Yeah. That is another thing that is like, I don't deserve any of this, and I don't belong here. But so I suffer from significant imposter syndrome as well. So
no, that's great. Now I'm curious. Sorry, I'm sorry that
I can tell you off. I can tell you offline.
Otherwise, I'm going to be like incredibly obsessed with this for a very long time, because I'm nosy, and also I'm stuck inside my house. So anyway,
we have a question: favorite local coffee shop in Chicago?
Oh wait, hold on. Oh God. Oof. So okay, I feel like I should be like transparent about this. I live in Hyde Park and I walk to school every day. I have a car here, but like my sort of jaunts into the city are not like, they don't happen very often. So where I drink coffee from most regularly would be Phil's, which is not a Chicago coffee shop. It's just like very close to my house and reminds me of home. And Grounds of Being, which is the coffee shop in the basement of the div school. Dr. Cheryl, hello. And then also like, what's the other one? Ex Libris, which is the coffee shop at the library, and then like a coffee shop at the bookstore. Like, though I'm not saying any of them are particularly good, but
if you're in your apartment and on campus, you're going to be drinking coffee on campus. So
exactly, yeah. There's really no reason at all for me to drive to go and get coffee from somewhere when, like, first of all, have you tried parking here? Once you find parking, like, that's it, period.
Yeah. So I want to tell you a story about Oxford. We arrive at Oxford. First of all, getting there was a nightmare. We brought a 9-month-old daughter.
Wait, is this recently or like when you were?
This was 2009.
Cool.
When we went over there. Yeah. Right. We show up at we have the top flat.
But like you were just there, right?
Yes, I was just there last week.
Great.
Well,
yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Just making sure I like was following along.
And we are at the Oxford Center for Hebrew and Jewish Studies, which at the time was located in a place called Yarnton Manor, which is the ancestral homestead of the Spencer family. It is about 5 miles outside of Oxford proper, in a little village called Yarnton. And so
wait, Yarnton, is this like Yarn Town or like Yarnton?
It probably derived from Yarn Town, but it's Yarnton is how it's spelled.
Yeah, Yarnton.
And so it's a Jacobean manor with other houses on the grounds. So we're stepping into a Jane Austen novel.
Hell yeah!
And there's a minibus that goes back and forth between downtown Oxford and Yarnton Manor several times a day. And so I can ride that for free. My wife has to pay to ride that. And additionally, because she's not a student, if they run out of room and they need the space, they will kick her off.
Randomly. Wherever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so travel is not efficient. It's not easy. So I'm taking most of my classes in Yarnton Manor. And then I don't have to be in town for much, but I usually went into town almost every day for something or other.
I get it. I feel like town is campus. It's not the same, but it feels similar. Anyway.
So we try to find our way to the local Latter-day Saint congregation one Sunday. Sure. I try to find my way there. I take a bus there. I know that it's on this road. And now I've forgotten the name of the road, but it's this road south of town. But there's a city that goes by the same name, and I take a bus to the city. That's 10 miles away. Get to the city, and I was like, I need the name. I need the road, not the city.
Yeah, so someone got on BART and fell asleep.
So it's by the time I get there, I'm and it started raining too, and so it just was not a good Sunday. I was not. You're not going to have a good time, and I show up there, and everybody is lovely, and I'm introducing myself, and this is mostly there's this townies and gownies dichotomy in Oxford.
Wait,
the townies are the
gownies?
Gownies, yes, you wear the gown. So because the robes that you wear for graduation at Oxford, you wear them throughout the term. Like you have to go to matriculation, which is a little ritual that you do at the beginning.
You wear the gowns for how long?
Well, you have to wear them at specific events throughout the entire time you're there, and it's called a subfusk. And I had to wear a white bow tie, so I had to learn how to tie a bow tie.
This feels so Episcopalian, and I really can't say why, but like, I just does anyway.
Well, anyway, so it's mostly townies here, but they're every year they have new students that come in, and so I'm talking with one of the people there. I was like, yeah, I'm here with my wife. She's back at the place with her 9-month-old daughter who is colicky and has acid reflux and just screams.
I had
when
colic.
She's not. Oh yeah, it's awful.
I mean, my mom, not me. I mean, I had colic, but best of luck to my mom.
And when I'm talking with one person, they're like, "Do you have a car?" And I was like, No, we don't have a car. We can barely afford dinner. So, and they were like, hang on a second. And they left, and I'm talking with somebody else, and I thought they just forgot about me or something. And then they catch up with me about 10 minutes later, and they're like, okay, we got you a car. And I was like, baking powder? What? And they were like, we had an American family come to a PhD. They were there for 8 years. They bought a car. They couldn't take it with them. So they just gave it to the bishop of this congregation. And they said, if there are any American families here and they need a car, let them have the car.
Stop it.
So they were like,
right now,
come down to this place tomorrow, pick up the car. It's yours while you're here.
Oh my God.
And so while I was there, I drove a 2000 Ford Mondeo, which it's a little,
that is, but okay.
It's only over there in it's not in the US. And I had to learn to drive on the other side of the car. The stick shift is on the other side of me. I'm driving on the other side of the road. It was a crash course that I had to go through, but that like seriously changed our mobility, made it so we could go places. But I never went into town. This was only for going like the other direction, because you cannot park in Oxford. It is impossible.
Yeah.
I can imagine how I've been to Chicago. I've been to the campus. I know what it's like, and it is made me think of trying to park in Oxford, and that was just awful.
Yes and amen. I'm looking for my headphones because I'm very annoyed that someone in the chat was like, "Why are you wearing headphones?" I want to wear mine. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I can find them. Anyway, yes, agree. Parking here is. It's basically like the equivalent of rent. Like, if you want to park, you're going to pay so much money. And honestly, fine. Because when I drive, like, I will pay any amount of money to just stop doing that. Just stop driving. And I only do it when I'm going to where I work, which is the gym. So, like, there's not a lot of choice. But I will walk in the rain, in the snow, whatever. It did snow here already. I will walk so that I don't have to try and figure out where to park. Also, like, the University of Chicago campus, like, nobody cares about their lives, apparently, or they're just, like, so they expect people to stop for them. And, like, honestly, I don't even necessarily expect them to stop for me. I just don't care if they don't. That's all. Like, I'm like, fine, I have student loans, so, like, run me over, whatever.
Doing me a favor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you can pay them and not me. That's great. Love it. But, like, overall, I actually don't know why anybody tries to drive, like, anywhere on campus, because just as someone who is trying to go to the library, Like, I've watched people sit at a stop walk for like 5-10 minutes, and like people that were not there, that didn't have any right to cross the street, are just like, yeah, fuck you. Like, I'm just gonna, like, sorry, excuse my language, but that's effectively what it is. They don't care. They don't give a shit. They're just trying to like cross the road, and they like have simply given up. I don't know a better way to say that. They don't care.
So I got a question here. How many times do you hit your hand on the door trying to change gears when driving in the UK? My biggest problem, I didn't have a problem with that, but what I had a problem with was I'm used to sensing how much car I have on the right side of me. But now I had to sense how much car I had on the left side of me.
That's a very weird thing.
It is. So my biggest problem was turning left, I would hit the curb every single time, because I was misjudging how much car I had on that side of me. And every time I pulled up into an intersection, I had to be like, okay, I'm on the left side of the road.
Yes.
If I turn that way, the left side of the road is there. I had to like study every intersection to be like, that's where I'm going to go. And it was a headache. And then last October, so a year ago, I went over to England and then to Malta for work. And I was like, I've got to go to 3 different places in England. I'm going to be traveling around Malta quite a bit. I'm just going to rent cars. I won't take public transportation. I'm going to rent cars. Honestly. And I was like, this is going to be so much nicer. And then it had been 10 years since I've driven over in the UK. And so I get to the rental car place. I hop in the car and I sat down and I was like, oops, this was a big mistake. And I drove from London, England, like the Heathrow, to Exeter, which is on the other side of southern England, and then to Oxford, and then to a place called Samford, and then back to Heathrow. And if not for sat-nav, I would be dead in a field in England right now, because that was the first time I've ever used satellite navigation. But it's,
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised you aren't in prison, and like not because you aren't a good law abider, but because like I would have accidentally killed someone trying to, or myself.
I was just like pulling out of the rental car place. I was like, I don't have enough room to maneuver this car out of here because everything's very tight. And I cannot believe my luck that I did not I didn't get a single ding on the car.
I mean, of course,
a lot of people don't know in Malta, they drive on the left side of the road as well.
I do.
Yeah. So I got there and the car didn't have sat nav. I had to use my phone, and I was like, this is not going to work. But luckily, it actually worked great. The service was great. The only issue was the voice could not pronounce any of the Maltese.
Yes. That makes sense. Yeah. I will say this. So a couple of years ago, I went to Italy, and I went with my best friend at the time, and she was competing at some like CrossFit thing, whatever. I am a very anxious human. So like, I'm not going to try to drive in a place where I can't read the signs. Like, I'm just not going to do that. She is going to do that, and she did. And honestly, it was great because we got a lot of places a lot quicker than we would have. However, we also got lost a lot. And the degree of stress that I felt was so high. And I mean, like, we were driving on the same side of the road, if I remember correctly, but it was still just like, oh, what's happening right now? And like, I don't know. She doesn't know. Nobody knows. Like, nobody knows except for other people on the road that aren't us. So. And
you're no matter where you are, whether you're on the right side, left side, whatever, you're in a different system. Yes. And it's an unfamiliar system. And like the first time I drove, I've driven in I don't know how many different tiny little islands in the middle of the Pacific. And every time it's like I have to ask people, what do I need to know to survive driving on these roads? And
it's amazing to me that people are so brave to like not ask those questions. Like, she didn't ask. And I'm like, what in the what were you born with that I was not?
Yeah.
Where can I buy it? Is this on Amazon? Because that's amazing. Anyway,
tell me what so far in your intro to the Hebrew Bible class, what is one of the coolest things you've learned so far?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because what textbook are you using, by the way?
None.
Is
Zero.
it? Oh, none. Okay, so you're not doing Collins.
No, there's no textbook. Okay. He literally Shavel. I've spelled his name wrong for like the first 4 weeks, and I am sad. Anyway,
he's also, the textbook. He's just guiding everything.
Correct. When I like messaged him and was like, "I'm so okay." So I told you this. I didn't tell everyone else. One day I was like walking through campus at the end of the day, and I saw some man who I didn't know in a black jacket and a black hat and black sunglasses waving to me, and I was like, Don't do that. I don't know you. I don't know you. And about like 10 minutes later, I was like, oh my God, that was definitely my professor. All right, cool. So I called him and I was like, hey, quick question. Did you just see me like maybe 20 minutes ago and like wave at me and I looked at you like you had 3 heads? If so, I'm very sorry. Sorry. I want to die a little bit. I didn't say that. I said, if not, I need to figure out who and why, like who was waving to me and why. Anyway, it was him. So So in this interaction, I realized that I had been spelling his name Cheval instead of Chavel. Yeah, which makes sense because I live right next to a restaurant called Small Cheval. So
okay. Anyway. Hang on just a second.
Oh yeah. Go.
Nikki, what's up?
Can I go play with another friend?
If Vivian will take you.
Vivian.
Okay.
Can I play with another friend?
This is so cute.
No. I don't really have another friend. So.
Can you take her?
Where do you want to go?
Okay.
Juju's not here, remember? Ember?
Hey, sorry, my daughters are making plans.
Well, please don't be sorry. Continue.
I have a when we were in Oxford, we went into the Bodleian Library gift shop, and the Bodleian Library is the coolest library in the world. The Duke Humphreys room, that's where they filmed the Harry Potter library scenes.
No way.
And I've studied there a number of times, but in the gift shop, they have these signs that say "Silence, please," because this is a sign that's all over the Bodleian Library. I've been yelled at in the Bodleian Library. I got
yelled at the other day.
And but my wife was like, "You need one of these postcards that's all black and then says 'Silence, please' in white." She's like, "When you want us to leave you alone in your office because you're in an interview or something, just put it on the glass door." So right now I have my "Silence, please."
Oh wait, you have a glass door?
Double glass doors.
That's amazing.
In the office. Yeah. Well, when we had the house built, I was like, I want double glass doors.
Wait, you had the house built?
Yes. So we
I need to know more about this.
When I got my the job that I did for the last decade, fell into my lap. I was in 2010. It does that
sometimes. No.
It does. I've been unbelievably fortunate when it comes to employment in between stretches of just like utter destitution. But
sounds like academia, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm moving around because I'm trying to take more cold medicine. So
that's fine. 2010, I'm giving a presentation at SBL in Atlanta, and after the presentation, somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm a guy named Todd. He's a manager of scripture translation for my church." It's like, "I know you're a member, you're doing scholarship, it's great stuff. We could really use your help on some of the initiatives that we're working on in scripture translation." I was like, "Hey, cool, I'd love to do that." He's like, "It's a contract basis." Well, we talked a couple of times after that, but nothing really came of that. 2013, end of SBL, this time in Chicago. I'm sitting in the airport at my gate waiting for a plane to show up because I'm supposed to be leaving soon. The gate next to me, full of people, they have a plane, they get on, they leave. Takeoff time comes and goes. I go to the gate agent. I'm like, "Where's this flight?" And they were like, "Oh, you must have missed the announcement that we changed to the gate right next to you. So you just watched your flight leave." And they were like, "We'll put you on another flight."
Sorry, and so that's so horrible. Like now it's fine, but at the time I would have been like epileptic. But anyway.
Well, I was like, well, I'm an idiot, so you gotta account for that. I had to run across the airport to this other flight so that I can get home the same day. At the time, I was not in a position where they're like, you got to spend the night, and I can be like, great, here's my card, give me a nice hotel. Which happened in England, by the way. We missed our flight home last Sunday, and we had to get booked on it. Anyway, different story.
No, I mean, yeah. Sorry, there's so many things going on, and which is like, one, you're past, two, you're present. Also, people arguing in the chat about headphones, and I'm like cackling. Like I'm trying to and also cold medicine. So there's a lot going on, but I'm listening. Sorry.
And
So
I'm having to. I'm texting right now with a friend of mine. So because I'm trying to get Joel McHale on the podcast. So I'm texting him right now. So if I am distracted.
No, I'm sorry. I haven't come on live right now.
I don't know if he knows how to join a YouTube live.
This is so stressful, but I mean, I believe it. He did the soup, okay, for like so long. And I don't laugh out loud at a lot of things, actually. Like I do like a fun fake laugh a lot of the time, like whatever. And that's on autism. But anyway, but when I watched the soup, like that was actually very funny. And so there's not a lot of celebrities I really think about or care about, but I am very jealous of you and Joel because that's hilarious.
He is a self-described extremely arrogant foodie, and so I think he's ashamed of me because I'm kind of a picky eater and I don't have the stomach for a lot of stuff. Like I can't do sushi at all. And he's like, your life must suck.
No, honestly, it's so great not having to eat raw fish. Like you wouldn't believe it. Yeah.
So excuse me if I'm a little distracted, but so back to the story. I run across the airport and sit down at the gate for this flight so I can get home the same day. And I sit right next to this guy who I had occasionally chatted with, who worked for the church. And he was like, what are you doing these days? And I was like, I'm finishing up my second master's degree. I work at a country club so that I can play free golf. Basically I'm struggling to stay alive. And he's like, oh, we can find something for you to do. And that was the 2 days before Thanksgiving, 2012, not 2013, because by the middle of January 14th, 2013, I started up as an intern in the scripture translation
and the rest
group.
Is history.
And by August, I was offered a full-time position, and I can still remember. I still remember going into the meeting. They were like, here's our contract. Here's the salary we're going to offer you, all the benefits and everything. And I was like, yeah. I'm going to pretend to be thinking about this and keep the screaming internally because this is more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've just like quadrupled the amount of money I've ever made. Like cumulatively.
I'm gonna pretend I'm thinking about this.
Yeah. They're like, take your time, and I was like, I don't need to.
What time?
Yeah.
I needed healthcare like 5 years ago. Like, be so fucking for real with me.
So I went home and I was like, sweetie, this is what I'm getting paid now. And she was like, we can buy a house. Yeah. So we went house hunting and we didn't really find anything we just had to have. But we did find a builder who was building in a place that we're in now. And we love the design. We love everything. It was right in our price range. This was 2013, between 2013 and 2014. And this was right before everything really started taking off. And so we got in right at the beginning and were incredibly fortunate to build a nice house. And what's funny is after sign the contract and everything's good, like within the year, I was in a position again, mainly because of student loan deferment, where I would not be eligible to buy a house. And it has been like that up to about 6 months ago. I would only be eligible to buy a house again within the last 6 months.
It's just so fun. Yeah. I got a message the other day from the government that was like, student loans are back in action. And I was like, not for me. but for some people, definitely not for me though, because I'm back in school. So
Yeah. That was, and it was nice because I was, they had like a 6 month, once I got into my PhD program, I was like, haha, I'm a student again, screw you guys. And so I did that for, I think 4.5 years. I was a PhD student, and then they give you 6 months grace period after you graduate and everything.
Yeah.
And then COVID. So I was like, oh, sweet. I'm gonna push it off even further. But yeah,
I mean, honestly, the one good thing Corona did, honestly, and that's something I'm suffering with at this moment. Just kidding. I haven't. I'm not suffering, but it is definitely like one of the only good things that came from COVID was like we don't actually need student loans. Like we could just not have them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, people are getting phenomenally wealthy, even when nobody's paying back their student loans.
Imagine that. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry. Coolest thing that you learned.
Shoot. So I don't know that I can say that I can say there's like one individual like nugget that I have to offer that's like so groundbreaking. But like the entire framework or like lens or whatever you want to call it through which I am viewing the Hebrew Bible has been completely rearranged. Like just in this way that I sort of couldn't ever have really expected. So obviously I knew about like the different sources, like the priestly source, the Yahwistic source, like all of those things. Yeah.
By the way, everybody.
Yes, that was on Stackard's
fire.
desk 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Every time I go to his office, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm definitely listening to you, but also I just want to look at your books. Like,
yeah, that's what I do when I'm in other professors' offices. I'm just
Also, to be fair, he said that's what he does too. So I don't feel as bad. He was like, oh yeah. When I'm there,
everybody does that.
I'm listening, but like also, I just saw 15 books I want.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So if you want the complete priestly source, wonderful commentary notes about it as well. Leanne Feldman, we interviewed her on my podcast, the Data Over Dogma podcast, a few months ago. So you can go check out that interview. That I think is a great interview. Also, Esther Hamori's book, God's Monsters, is phenomenal. Vengeful spirits, deadly angels, hybrid creatures, and divine hitmen of the Bible came out just in time for Halloween. That's a wonderful book as well. And then since
podcast, go do that right now. Anyway,
and then you can go to my Patreon as well because I probably need to drive more traffic to my Patreon, but I do live streams there for the Patreon subscribers, and then I'm on the I don't even know what it's called, Discord channel. I'm on there almost every day. So
that makes one of us. Yeah,
we have. So there are some stalwarts there who we have a good time chatting back and forth. And also my book, Adonai's Divine Images, which was edited by Jeffrey Stackard in the Ancient Near East Monograph series, which is an open access series. Hang on just a second. What's up, Nikki?
Why does Vivi always get to watch on the big phone? He made me watch on the iPad.
Okay. Here's my iPad, Viv. Why don't you use my iPad?
Hell yeah.
Okay, bye.
No, wait, because that's how I sign off like everything in my life. Anyway. Okay, bye. All of this book's so great, and I already told you before, but I'm gonna tell everyone in the chat that like, well, I told you one of these things. The other thing I didn't. So I sort of stumbled into a pre-application meeting with Jeffrey Stackard. So I was very fortunate to have interviewed, Eric H. Blind Scholar. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting his last name. He's great. He went to Brandeis.
Mm-hmm.
Stackard did his PhD at Brandeis, whatever. Anyway, he knew Stackard. He connected me with him. great. I said, I'm thinking about applying. He said, do you want to talk over Zoom? I said, obviously. So we did. And the first thing that I said to Jeffrey Stacker, God rest my soul, was, okay, now that I have you one-on-one, what did you really think about Dan's book? Why did I say that? I don't know. Because I was nervous and scared. Anyway, it was a great conversation. But the other day when I was in his office doing who knows what, talking about Hebrew or something, he was telling me how, like, he does these kind of, I don't know, impromptu, whatever, like chats with anyone who kind of wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, usually it like lowers their standing in his eyes. I don't know whether or not mine did. I think about this a lot. I mean, I got in, so okay. But anyway, so
That's funny. That makes me wonder what he thought about me after we first spoke, because I think we've spoken in person maybe twice, grand total.
Yeah, but that's not you trying to get into his like master's program. Like I say it's his. Let's be so real, it is. But like you were already a doctor, so anyway. Jefferson, you're watching.
One of the things that baffled me, that surprised me, was I have been told by a few different people that when they only know me over email, the picture they have of me in their head is much different from what they see. And I don't know if I should be happy or upset about this, because my first day at Trinity Western University, I was there to work with Peter Flint and Marty Abegg, two of the biggest names in Dead Sea Scrolls scholarship. And I had been emailing back and forth with Marty Abegg for months. Mm-hmm. And when I showed up, he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're not this 6.5 foot tall Adonis." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Based on your emails,
ma'am, this is a Wendy.
And the way you talk in your emails, I generated this image of this Adonis in my head." And he was like, "I'm so glad to know that that's not you." And I was like,
"What does that even mean? That's so rude, first of all."
Well, I was flattered. I was like, "Well, I guess I write emails well."
Yeah, but then
if these people are like, "This is this super confident,"
so then it's like,
yeah, and that was the point where I was like, "I'm short and not. I'm 5'11 and a half.
That's not short, okay? The half counts anyway. It's not. I'm sorry. Like that is so funny on so many levels. That's all.
Okay, question. If we do have Joel McHale on the podcast, what should he talk about? He says, "I feel like there's not enough dragons in the Bible. Can we talk about that?"
I feel this way as well. I mean, but I feel like there's not enough dragons everywhere. But you know,
yeah, because he's not really a specialist in this.
Me neither.
Alias Fake Name says hi.
Hi.
Here's a question.
Methodology.
I'd love to hear you brief us about the cognitive science methodology you developed for reading text.
Hold on, before you do that.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all read his book?
I've
and my brain still hurts.
I've read my book now that I think about it.
Obviously.
I was about to say I haven't even read it, but
which is weird. No, like I'm gonna say this. I read his book. I'm not sure I understand it. I tried really hard. It's incredibly dense, and this was the version for the general public.
It was an attempt to take my dissertation and whittle it down to something that was.
Why are you so smart? Please.
No, it is a failure to articulate these things in a more accessible way. It's not. The dissertation. Hang on just a second.
He's a liar, everybody.
Here's the actual dissertation, which was
That's the
500 and 538 pages long.
I'm telling my kids that's the Bible.
And I was very dumb because I was writing this for the University of Exeter, which is in the UK, and I have lived in the UK, and I knew that they use A4 paper over there. They don't use letter.
Sorry, wait,
paper.
What, they use A4?
It's not letter. It is something called A4, which means it is a tiny bit more narrow and a little bit taller. And so when they told me, here's how you have to turn in the dissertation, it had to be on A4 size paper. So I wrote the whole thing on A4 size paper. It's all ready to go. I sent it to BYU's printing press here in the US and said, hey, print this out for me. Give me a hardbound copy of my dissertation. And then I get it, and it's like
Reader's Digest?
Right to the top of the page, right to the bottom of the page. It barely fits. And I was like, oh, crap, that's right. So I got to imagine they were like, look at this idiot giving us A4. But yeah, they were also, like, you need to take it down a little bit for the published version.
So I want you to answer that question. Obviously.
Yeah.
I do want to also say this. I screamed accidentally the other day about how publics, quote unquote, can silence scholars. And I screamed about this because of Francesca. And I was like, this woman is brilliant. Yeah. She is writing brilliant books, brilliant articles, brilliant everything. And she receives so much harassment. And that is coming from someone who, again, obviously I'm not in the same position in any way, but just being a woman that exists on the internet.
She's shown me some of the emails that she gets every single day from folks, and it is abusive. It is all gendered.
Oh yeah.
It is horrific. And she's been the head of the theology and religion department at Exeter for a long time.
Just kidding. I'm teasing.
Oh, she's not going to be at SBL this year. We were supposed to have dinner, but she's got to stay behind to take care of some things. However, you should talk with her.
No, I absolutely would love to. I really don't care that they didn't let me in. To be fair, I wasn't going to move to the UK.
Did you apply to Exeter?
I did. However,
you applied to Oxford. I remember writing a letter to Oxford.
So I'm confused, maybe because I thought it was Exeter, and
maybe was it Exeter?
I thought it was. I was trying to apply to Exeter. Maybe that's why I didn't get accepted.
Because I know I sent something to
whoops
to Oxford. Yeah,
maybe I had too much cold medication. I don't know. In any event, none of this matters at all. Chicago was my first choice, and I'm here, so that's great.
I don't see Exeter on here, but I do see Oxford.
Maybe I didn't apply.
Okay, maybe not.
I don't know.
I honestly don't know. You don't have to be upset with Francesca now.
Oh, I was never upset with her. She could tell me to my face that she hates me, and I would not be upset with her because I'm that's fine.
She
would probably have a good reason for that. No, I don't think she would, but I'm just saying I would believe her over myself. Anyway.
Okay, so cognitive science methodology for reading text. So there are two methodologies that I bring into this book. One is cognitive linguistics. One is the cognitive science of religion. Both are attempts to use all of the different tools at the disposal of the cognitive sciences to better understand how language works and how this thing that we call religion works. When it comes to language, there are a lot of complexities. Basically, anything that you think is a simple category is not. Any boundary you think you can draw between two things, you can't. It is shades of gray, it is continua, and it is a spectrum, and it's a lot messier than that. So language has no inherent meaning. things mean whatever people use them to mean, and you can only know what people are using them to mean by being familiar with the conventions that are in circulation in a given time or place. A story I share is when I was my first week at Oxford, I was on Cornmarket Street, which is this little foot traffic retail district downtown, and I saw a KFC, and I was like, sweet. I went in, I was like, y'all got biscuits? And they were like, what? And and I was like, oh, that's right. Biscuits here means cookies. Okay. So what I want is, I could not fathom how to describe what I want. I was like, it's flaky, it's buttery, it's a dough-based product, and people,
like a muffin, but not.
I was like, muffiny, but it's flaky. And somebody was like, oh, you should have just said scone. And I was like, don't you dare compare a KFC biscuit to a scone. So, but
That's
we had this,
of hell.
I could not get this poor young man to understand what I wanted because I was not familiar with the conventions with which he was familiar. I had an image in my head, and I am used to encoding that image in a way that I know other people understand, so that when they decode it, the same image pops into their head. I could not encode that image in a way that this young man would be able to decode adequately, accurately. And so
I told y'all Dan was brilliant. Don't argue with Dan.
Except when I'm in a KFC and freaking Oxford,
literally just the fact that like you had this like internal monologue at any point just like reifies my point. Anyway, continue.
So when we're looking at texts that are not written in our native language, that are not written in our time period, that are not written in a register or a dialect or a version of the language that we use, there are going to be misunderstandings. And if it has to be translated, then there's a layer of interpretation between us and that original text. So when we're looking at the Bible, we are not extracting meaning that has been inserted or that is being stored in the text. We are creating anew the meaning, and we are hoping that we are creating it in a way that to some degree approximates what was intended anciently. And the better we know the conventions of that time period, the better we know the circumstances, the better we know the rhetorical goals of the authors, the better we know their literary genres and conventions, the more accurately we can construct a meaning that is going to hopefully approximate what they meant. And so with a lot of interpreting the biblical text, it's really a guessing game. And we are more confident the more people agree with what we say, but we can never really be 100% confident. And there are some things we will never know. We can say it's 50-50. It could be this, it could be that, and we have nothing else that we can bring to the table to shift the balance.
It makes me mad, but yeah,
it is infuriating sometimes. Like there are some times when I'm coming across something and it's like half the scholars say it's this, half say it's that.
Yeah,
I want to know
exactly. Sorry.
And somebody mentioned George Lakoff. George Lakoff's work with metaphor is phenomenal. So if you ever have an opportunity to read anything by Lakoff, such as Don't Think of an Elephant, his discussion about politics and how language affects politics, that's a great one. Metaphors We Live By is his big one. So what I'm doing in the book is I'm also talking about prototype theory, which is a theory of categorization that tries to more accurately engage with how the human mind categorizes, because what is the received wisdom, the conventional wisdom, is that everything has a definition, and you can just reduce everything down to a definition, and that is officially, formally, technically what things mean. And that's just nonsense. Definitions are just approximations, and the notion that conceptual categories can be reduced to necessary and sufficient features is simply false.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say this. I've literally been taking Hebrew language for 6 weeks, which is nothing. It's nothing. And all I can say is that translation is effectively making shit up with like a little bit of knowledge. Like obviously there are more correct and less correct, but like what I have learned in just a few weeks, which means that I am a very baby. I'm very baby translation. Is that like nothing is a one-to-one translation. Like none of this is something that it's like, oh, this means this. Like very rarely anyway. Most of it is like, as my teacher says, make good English sense of this. Because like it's not going to make good English sense when you're trying to just say like this word means X, that means X.
Yeah.
Right? And I do think it's also, and again, this is just my like very baby opinion, but like the same when it comes to these sort of conceptual categories, like how we describe the past. Like it's very much like we're trying to make sense of things that are not a one-to-one.
Yeah. And this is something when I teach Hebrew, one of the things that I'll talk about is
when you teach Hebrew.
Yeah, I actually used to do a free Hebrew class, a weekly free Hebrew class, and that got I ran out of time to do that. And then I did a Greek one as well. But when I teach Hebrew, one of the things I point out is once we get to the verb haya, to be, to become, we talk about this phrase in the Hebrew Bible, the word of the Lord came to someone. And it was like, and it's like, that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew is literally the word of the Lord became to someone. And so to become conceptual constellation is more about something popping into existence than about something traveling from one point to another. And so how I challenge people to come up with a translation that accurately encapsulates that concept, but is also natural in English. And you can't do it.
There isn't one. Yeah.
There is no, it's not a one-to-one correspondence. And so that's a very simple example of the challenges of translation. And that's when we know what they're trying to say. A lot of times we don't know what they're trying to say.
I mean, I don't remember exactly where it is at this moment, but there was definitely a point where in the Old Testament, Yahweh was like, do this or it's as bad as having sex with goat demons. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. And it's not just me. Also, Dr. Chevelle does not know, but he continues to bring it up. And you know what? I would like to know what a goat demon is. Like, I'm very, but we are not going to know that anyway. So
I'm trying. I don't remember what passage that's talking about, because
I could email
it makes me think of Azazel. But there's only one use of the name Azazel.
No, I mean honestly, I don't know, because it's not a Hebrew language course, so he just says things, and then I'm just like, all right, sure. Like, I believe you. I'm positive that whatever you said is correct. Also, I have no idea what you're talking about. But goat demons, love it.
Yeah,
goat's very cute. Anyway.
Okay, we got a question. What's a divine image? So my book is Adonai's Divine Images, and I talk about divine images are idols. And one of the things that I do in the book is try to explain the logic, the intuitive subconscious logic of divine images, because there are ways that we do the exact same things today they did with divine images anciently. And one of the simplest examples I use is if you've ever seen someone speaking to a headstone in a cemetery, that is the exact same thing that goes on with divine images. The headstone has become an index for the agency of this agent, in this case, a deceased agent. And anciently, the line that divided deceased agents from divine agents was not really existent. This was another situation where it's a spectrum, where you have ancestors and they become divinized. And I argue very briefly in the book, I suggest that there is probably something to the idea that Adonai, the God of Israel, was once a divine ancestor.
Ooh,
that then became a patron deity. What's that?
Sorry, can we talk a little bit about like ancestor cults in the ancient world?
Yeah.
Because I personally am fascinated by this, not surprised, because I feel like this is like a regular practice among sort of ancient Mesopotamia. But I think that people that sort of have been conditioned or identify or like whatever as Christian in America are shook by this. And I mean, like, anyway, I love it.
It's when you go look at the origins of stelae, so standing stones, which are mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. You've got a bunch of the patriarchs are vibing with stelae, but when you look in very ancient land of the Levant, where a lot of these originate, you see scholars distinguish two general types: some that seem to be used to mark burials, and then others that seem to be used as indices for deities. And then there are some that kind of overlap the two. And so initially, the standing stone would mark the location of a burial, but it also represented a way to interact with the person who was buried there. And if you go look at the Jericho skull, this is somebody took a deceased kin's skull and decorated it to make it look like a living person, and they probably interacted with it. It was probably something that maybe they brought it to the dinner table, maybe they put it on the shelf, maybe it was there at dinner parties, but it was a way to kind of have the deceased loved one participate. And because when loved ones die, you don't sever that relationship, you just renegotiate it. Yeah. And it changes into something different.
I feel I've heard this somewhere.
These indices, these material media, are ways to mediate a new kind of relationship. And so, ancestor cults are all over the place. They're in the Hebrew Bible, in fact. Hang on just a second. Where is it?
Donde?
Okay, don't know where it is, but there is a wonderful book called Caring for the Dead in Ancient Israel by Carrie Sonia, which I think was published in 2021, maybe 2022, which is all about the ancestor cults in ancient Israel, which you have a lot of this stuff going on. And when we look at mortuary chapels in ancient Israel, there's not much difference between a mortuary chapel and a temple. You had a lamp to provide light. You provisioned them with food. You usually had a table of some kind that food would be on. Sometimes you set up a throne. Sometimes you had a standing stone.
That's
like everything that we see in the temple.
Interesting to me because it's the tabernacle.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that's one of the reasons. And, when we look at in archaeology, a lot of people have pointed out it's very difficult to tell the difference between an altar and an offering table. They function very, very similarly. And you have offering tables in mortuary chapels. And so an altar in a temple is doing the same thing that an offering table in a mortuary chapel is doing. And so the argument is basically that the worship of deities in temples is an innovation on the relationships that you maintained with the deceased ancestors in mortuary chapels.
So I think, this is loosely related, but one of the things that I found incredibly interesting about this class that I'm taking is that we sort of compared the different sources, and like one of the points that we compared them on, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, was like, how does Yahweh either care or not care about like where he's worshipped effectively? And like, I think it's the
Deuteronomist.
Well, yes, but there's one where it's like, hey, just like have a pile of dirt, it's fine. I think it's E. And they're like, yeah, just like I don't know, pile up some dirt, it's fine wherever you are, like have the kids do it, NBD, like just whatever. You can do whatever you want, wherever. And then yes, there is the Deuteronomistic source where it's like, actually, no, there's one place, and here's all of the ways that we're going to adjust every aspect of life to sort of account for this one place. And I will say this again with my whole chest. God damn it, Josiah.
Yeah, because it seems like it was really just, I don't want people to have other places to go. I want them to come here. So that all the money gets funneled into my town, into my priesthood.
Yes, I too want that. Unfortunately, anyway, no, but like, yeah, and something that I was like a little bit, how do I say this? So I went to my professor's office hours to ask about Deuteronomy 34, 32. 32.
32, 8 and 9.
Because we read something about the cosmology of the ancient Near East and how like the stars were originally apparently like the sons of God in some way, or like the whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, interesting. I feel like I have heard about this a little bit, but like I actually don't know all of the source material that you're referencing in this. Like I don't know that. So I went there, and his entire point was like, you are talking about this, him to me, like this is like actual history and not like a literary narrative. And I was like, sorry, I grew up Christian. But like, honestly, amazing. Like listening to all of this, hearing all of this, and sort of like realizing that folks that wrote, I mean, the sources, the alleged sources, or just like pretty much anything up until Kings was just kind of like a narrative history, like per like Hezekiah, like it's people giving an account of themselves to themselves. And I'm incredibly annoyed that I just cited Hezekiah. But they were right. Correct. They were correct. Like it's history in a way we don't think about it and we don't talk about it. And it's not history in the sense of like this really happened word by word. But it like really, really is history as they thought of it. Anyway, entire different direction. I'm sorry.
There's a book I'm reading right now called the Two Houses of Israel: State Formation and the Origins of Pan-Israelite Identity by Omer Sergi. And this came out, I think this year, 2023. And he's talking about how that history, and this is something that Seth Sanders has talked about as well. You don't get, shout out Seth and Ava, you don't get historical narrative until around the late 9th century and into the 8th century BCE. That's when you first see it in Northwest Semitic languages in this region. It is a technological innovation of this period. And so you can't really date any historical narratives prior to that. Anything before that is going to be poetry or oral tradition. And so if it is in historical narrative, then it has been put into that sometime during or after the 9th or 8th century BCE. But that the point of doing this was to generate a sense of identity around this notion of Israel. And Omer talks about how Israel in the earliest periods seems to be connected with a kinship identity, not with a state or anything like that. And even in the 9th and 8th and 7th centuries, when you see extra biblical references to Israel, it seems to always be tied to the house of Omri.
Yes.
And so this seems to be a kinship connection. And a lot of the historical narrative is trying to tie things into this kinship network and say we're all part of this kinship network. And then when you get down to the 12 tribes of Israel and things like that, that this is a larger project that is trying to say, it turns out we're all relatives. And, and here's the story of how everybody was, And so we have these different traditions that are then all put in a row. So-and-so was so-and-so's dad, and they were so-and-so's dad. And then their name changed to this other dude, and it's a way to kind of mush it all into a single lineage to say it turns out we're all related. And it's creating this national identity based on these more fragmentary identities from before.
No, I think honestly, this last week has been talking about the origins of Israel, like what we can say about them, which is effectively very
Not
little.
much.
Yeah, it's like, meh. But it is incredibly fascinating because one, we're talking, for me personally, it's fascinating because we're talking about like Sennacherib and like all of these sort of outside extant sources and whatever, to which Kings kind of matches or like maps to, kind of. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of maps, but also like it does not. Like these like points in history are like, all right, we can say like this. You said this name, so did they.
Yeah.
So like, great. But the summary.
If you imagine the story of Kings as a play, it's like some of the stage was accurate.
Yeah.
Some of the backdrop was like accurate.
Drunk history.
Like, I think Chronicles is more drunk history than Kings.
You're not wrong. But like, we had to do like a quote unquote case study, which I thought, which was like my favorite thing so far this semester. So maybe this is like the most interesting thing. Although it's not like I learned, I mean, I learned a lot, but I couldn't point out the like one thing I found most interesting. But we did this like case study of like, okay, read 2 Kings 18 and 19, and then read these royal inscriptions, and then read like, I don't even remember this, like Miller Hayes, I think.
History of
Israel and Judah. Thanks so much for ruining my Halloween weekend, Dr. Chevelle, by assigning literally over 100 pages, which I read all of them. Anyway, it's fine. Everything's fine. But I will say this has been like my favorite assignment, my favorite week, because it was like, all right, so take all of these sources and then do like I think he called it an intelligence brief or something. Like, what is the most likely thing that happened? Why do you think this? What are the sources you used? Okay, like also what's your rationale, and like separate it out. I spent way too much time on this. He and my TA told me that. And that's fine. That's fine. Like, it's fine. Everything's fine. But like, while I already knew that like a lot of things in the ancient world are kind of like royal propaganda, like across the board, this was just fascinating. Like I'd read it so many times. Like, I mean, the Bible story, like whatever, but like thinking about it in a number of different ways about like, okay, somebody wrote this after it happened. Obviously. I mean, not obviously, but
my favorite part is that it's like Sennacherib shows up and goes, "Pay me my money," and Hezekiah goes, "Okay."
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Sennacherib leaves, and then suddenly Sennacherib showing up again, saying, "Pay me my money,"
again.
and Hezekiah goes, "No." And
I mean, if he already did that, I mean, I too would be confused. But like,
and Hezekiah's name is spelled differently in the second time around. So it's like, how can this not be two different stories?
I'm obsessed. I love it. Yeah. I'm like, I feel like this is my Roman Empire.
Like, yeah, I think when I must have had 100 people that day that the whole "how often you think about the Roman Empire" thing started. I must have had 100 people at least tag me and ask me how often I thought about the Roman Empire, and I was
never,
like,
but Josiah?
Not much, but Josiah, yeah. The exilic period every single day.
Oh my god! Like,
yeah, and part of it's because I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not.
Sorry, that's not funny, but also that is very funny. Like, yeah, I'm glad you're not. Also, I knew that, but also that joke was very good. Yeah,
there are some great pieces explaining why the right is so obsessed with the Roman Empire. Well, mainly why white men are obsessed with the Roman Empire.
I mean, white men are so exhausting to me, but yeah. Also, I'm sorry, but like, This is very funny. Take that, snacky ribs. Yes. Also, long slay the queen. Oh, I love you. Thank you so much. Can we talk about Hezekiah?
Yeah.
Like, I have thoughts. Like, this man really was trying to, maybe not. Maybe he was not trying, but somebody was trying to portray him as like David and Solomon 2.0.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, all right, you know what? This guy, Rando, let's make him the best of all possible things, which is what we were already trying to do with David and also Solomon. So like somehow this is even more magical. Like,
yeah. One of my favorite places in the world. Well, I don't know if it's one of my favorite places in the world, but every time I go there, I really enjoy my time there. Is the Temple of Arad in the southern Negev, and this is a Judah.
Keith, nobody cares. No one's holding a gun to your head. Leave. No one cares. Okay, thank you.
And this is a Judahite temple that was built into the corner of a Judahite fortress on the top of this really big hill. And we have, it was discovered, covered in like 6 feet of soil. There was a standing stone, a stele, that was just laid on its side in the Holy of Holies. There were 2 incense altars. One of the incense altars has 3 different kinds of cannabis on it. Lots of really, really cool stuff going on, but it dates to right around Hezekiah, and it's
my guy.
The decommissioning dates to right around the time of Josiah. And so when it was originally discovered, the first claim was, "Oh, look, this is Hezekiah." I think I just said Josiah, but
Hezekiah. Yeah, for sure.
This is Hezekiah destroying the high places, and then other scholars are like,
yeah,
they didn't destroy the standing stone. Like normally you shatter the standing stone.
That's literally what the Bible says, but yeah.
Yeah, they just laid it on its side and then carefully filled the temple up with a bunch of dirt. And so another theory that I think is probably more accurate is Hezekiah was hiding the temple from the invasion of Sennacherib, because one of the things that Sennacherib did was destroy all of the cult sites. Mm-hmm. And this is part of the de facto cult centralization that is probably what inspired Josiah almost a century later to say, no, let's keep them all closed. Let's just do Jerusalem from here on out. And so I think it is a witness to the system of worship under Hezekiah, where he probably was not undergoing the reforms that the later Deuteronomistic authors are attributing to him. He was probably like, yeah, worship. And this is a Yahwistic temple. We have letters that were found there where they're referencing the house of Adonai. But there were I think they found some Judean pillar figurines, which some people associate with Asherah, but there were other divine images that were discovered there as well. So I am of the opinion that worship was a lot more liberal, a lot more pluriform, and a lot more common in these temples that were scattered around through Hezekiah down to when Sennacherib kind of shut everything down. And then not even 10 years ago, we found another one at Tel Motzah. So if anybody has ever been to Jerusalem and you take the highway that goes west out of northern Jerusalem, you go down a little hill and then up another hill. And at the bottom of that hill, that highway is built right over a First Temple period Judahite temple. And they found a bunch of divine images there as well. And this was in operation around the same time under Hezekiah. So, yeah, the reforms of Hezekiah, which the Deuteronomistic authors had to kind of qualify anyway. They were like, yeah, he got rid of the Baal stuff, but didn't get rid of any of the Asherah stuff. Were probably not reforms at all.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing to add to that. No notes. I'm obsessed with like this story of Hezekiah because there's so many of them in like 2 chapters. And I'm like, what? Like, what? This feels like gossip to me. Like, why are y'all talking about Hezekiah like this? And like, I don't even support Hezekiah. Like, I don't I don't know. I don't not support him, but like, I don't even actually think we really know what Hezekiah did. I feel like people are having competing arguments about Hezekiah, and somehow some like weird amalgamation of it. Poor Hezekiah, honestly, he was probably just trying to rule Judah in like a real rough time.
This would have been he would have seen the destruction of the northern kingdom, and didn't want this to happen.
No,
and I have a
it was like 15 years before, I think, ish. But like this story,
722.
Yeah. It was like 701. That was the Sennacherib's invasion, I think.
Yeah. And then Ray says he made a tunnel. He ostensibly made a tunnel. There are actually debates about when we date the actual tunnel. If you are ever in Jerusalem, you should definitely go traipse through Hezekiah's tunnel. But don't wear flip-flops. Bring actual water shoes, because the last time I was there, first time I wore water shoes, last time I was like, I'm just flip-flopping it. I stepped down into the water and my flip-flop gets jammed in between two rocks.
Yeah.
And I was
rest in peace, Flippy Floppy.
But
I love tunnels. Like, I love a good tunnel.
It is unnerving, by the way, to walk through that tunnel.
I believe that.
Yeah, but it's been there for 2,700 years, so it doesn't seem like.
I'm sorry, like the ancient world, whenever you encounter it, is unnerving.
Yeah.
For so many reasons that like I'm not even sure I can articulate, but like, so when I went to what was previously known as the Oriental Institute, it's now ISAC.
I think the Oriental Institute at Oxford, I think, is still the Oriental Institute, but I think they're talking about changing it.
God, I feel like I keep saying this and it's kind of embarrassing, but I was talking about this with Jeffrey Stackner the other night. He was like, honestly, I think that was a moment for teaching, and instead we just capitulated to like whatever. And I was like, all right. I can see that. Also, the word Oriental is just like real problematic. But also, yes, like if you're talking about this in the sense that it's like the way we are oriented, and like scholarship is not scholarship, but like this kind of scholarship is largely Western. Like, yes, this could have been a teachable moment. Also, I would have done the same thing. I would have said, nope, nix, no thank you. He also told me that like people have come to the previously OI, now ISAC, and been like, there are no statues of Buddha here.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost passed out. Like, I understand why that would happen, because like I grew up with Republicans, but like also, what in the world? Anyway, so when I went to the previously OI and now ISAC, like I actually think that's the closest thing to like a transcendental experience that I've ever had. Like looking at these things that existed, like at the advent of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm looking at them; they're right there. Like I don't. That's like I know that sounds super dumb, but like I really was just like, I cried. I teared up because like that's fucking insane. Sorry to use that word on your channel. Also, they have like the and I don't remember how to pronounce it, but they have like panels from the Neo-Assyrian like period that were in palaces. The Lasamu, I don't know. Which are effectively the same as the way the cherubim are described in the Bible, but I have no source for that.
Yeah,
just the same.
The Lamasu.
Yes.
But yeah, they are the same, and that is actually discussed in the second chapter of Esther's book. So let me just the first chapter is about seraphim. Second chapter is about cherubim.
Is there like a chapter for the biblically accurate angels?
Oh gosh.
Sorry, bad joke.
So the Yes, the third chapter is the adversary, aka Satan.
Oh, not Hezekiah. My
Could
God.
it be Satan? And then you have the destroyer and other angels.
Could it be?
Demons in God's ranks. Let's see, manipulative and mind-altering spirits. So that's going to be like the trances that prophets
I'm
get
obsessed.
into and stuff like that. The sea monster. Ooh, yeah, Leviathan and
Ooh.
Rahab and stuff like that.
Dude, not Loch Ness, not the monster that I was taught is evidence against evolution.
Oh gosh.
I told you this, right?
No.
The school I went to for 3 years, I had a science textbook, and their evidence against evolution, and I am not exaggerating, not joking, like there's a New York Times article about this, was that the Loch Ness monster existed. Period. Full stop. The end. Move on. That's all I needed to know. And like, I really believed that for like a long time. So, yeah. Anyway.
Then we got shades, ghosts, and other living dead,
Shades.
and then giants. And then I think the last chapter is probably it's entitled "The Monster of Monsters, the Wonder of Wonders." And I think that's going to kind of capitulate the whole discussion. But I said on Twitter that this is kind of like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where the monster is not Frankenstein, but when you read the book, you realize the monster is Frankenstein. And so in here, God is not the monsters, but when you read the book closely, you realize God was the monster all along.
I mean, hashtag not all Nephilim. You know what I mean? No, so
the Nephilim.
I love them. I actually personally find them fascinating, even though they're only mentioned in like a verse and a half or whatever. But like that verse and a half is a lifetime for me because what the hell is going on? Like, yeah,
that gave birth to First Enoch. The Book of Jubilees. It spawned so many different texts and discussions.
Yeah.
I wanted to respond to a couple questions. Yes. In your chapter, Adonai's Divine Agents, do you think the impulse for deity's material presence evolves into the incarnation of God in flesh as conceptual framework for Christianity? Actually, that's the appendix of my book, where I talk about how the framework that I developed for understanding divine images is applicable to early Christology. And so the appendix is called Divine Agency and Early Christology. And it's all about how this applies to Jesus. And so the Trinity is kind of a philosophical framework for resolving this problem of how Jesus can both be God and not be God. And the whole divine image question is the exact same question. How could idols both be the deity and not be the deity? And so I answer that question in here. And I'm actually working on the next book that I will hopefully do will be about how they understood Jesus's relationship to God through a cognitive
Time
lens.
out. You have next book on the roster. You already signed for it.
No, I haven't signed for it. I'm working on a book right now, though.
Yeah, the one about effectively summing up your sort of like TikTok activity. That's not right, but like, you know.
Yeah.
So is that a separate book?
Yes. So the after this one, I'm gonna
5 books at once. Yeah, not me.
No, I'm not working on it right now because I need to get this other one done.
Yeah.
In fact, I was working this morning, and I have it still up on my computer. I'm trying to finish my chapter on the Bible says abortion is murder.
Oh. God.
So. Yeah.
God. Oh, sorry. Like.
So that's.
The Bible doesn't say anything about it. I'm so sorry. No. Like it doesn't. No. But okay.
No.
Like I'm like fine. Abortion, don't care. Great, love it, have fun, whatever. But like, if we're really gonna say the Bible says X or Y about something, like it doesn't say anything about abortion. Like, it doesn't. Honestly, I hate that for me. But it doesn't. So all right, continue.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I just got another message
from Joel McHale, your bestie.
No.
You know, just like my friend.
This
President Obama.
Big difference between President Obama and
maybe.
and Joel. But yeah, my girls roll their eyes every time I get a text from him, because he texts me videos of him making dinner all the time.
This is the oh my god. Sorry, that is the why.
Like I said, he's an extremely arrogant foodie, and he loves particularly steak. And so he will text me videos of him cooking steak and stuff.
I don't.
But very, very nice looking steaks, better than anything I've ever had.
Joel, what are you doing? I don't know that maybe when I was dating someone for like a really long time, maybe I texted them like something about cooking, like something. But this is so funny to me because someone I met at Comic-Con, no, never. Mm-mm.
Oh, someone you met at Comic.
Sorry,
I was Comic-Con was so much fun. I've always loved Comic-Con. Like, I used to go to Comic-Con in the 90s when it was in a comic book store and was tiny. I have never, I don't understand I kind of understand, but I would never wait in a line for 30 minutes to pay somebody $100 to get an autograph or a selfie or something like that.
I'm neither waiting in line nor am I paying $100.
Yeah, but I did stand in line, like Joel, and then the other guy I've become friends with is a guy named Rob Paulson, who is the voice of Yakko and Pinky from the Animaniacs. And Carl Weezer from some cartoon I've never seen. But he's
cartoon. Also, hi James. What's the cartoon?
I do not remember.
All right, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
But he's been doing cartoon voices for a long time. He was on the original Ninja Turtles. He was on the rebooted computer animated Ninja Turtles.
Donatello, is that you?
Ton of stuff. But he same situation with as Joel. He reached out to me. He was like, I'm a big fan. Let's find an opportunity to get together at some point. And he was at Comic-Con as well. But so I stood in two lines because I needed to go and talk with them and be like, hey, when are you done with the thing so we can go do our dinner? And so it felt weird standing in line because I was like, I'm not paying a dime, man. I'm just here to.
So funny. Like, why couldn't you sneak around the back?
Joel was like, don't wait in line. I was like, I feel awful just jumping in front of 50 people who are waiting to pay you for an autograph or something. He's like, that just so. But I waited in line, and then inevitably when they would look up and be like, Dan, don't charge him. And
this is so like this is.
It was. I got quite a kick out of it because then all of a sudden everybody in line is like, who is this guy? What is? How do you know this?
That's Dr.
person? And so I felt like a little bit like a celebrity. So which was a funny experience.
You are. I mean, like
Jimmy Neutron. Yeah, that's what it's from, isn't it?
Okay. Oh my bad. Love it.
But
I'm going to be a slappy squirrel in my old age. I don't know what that is, but it does sound like something I would be right now, and also when I'm old. So anyway,
Carlton Ulysses does the Carl Weezer voice from the old Jimmy Neutron cartoons. Well, who does? Or then it must be Carl Weezer.
This is the funniest conversation I've had in so long. Like random. Funny, whatever. Also, for everyone in the chat, like probably 30 minutes before we went live, I was telling Dan about the scholar that was assassinated in the bathroom of Swift Hall at U Chicago. I don't have any further information for you, but I'm a true crime girly, and it's unsolved. So I feel like someone that's me needs to do an investigative contact on this. Hello, Sarah Koenig, is that you? Anyway, I want to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Maurice does the brain, I think. I met him as well, and Tress McNeil.
He is my internal monologue. The brain is my internal monologue, like, and not in like a I'm smart way, but just. Anyway.
The my wife was really excited to meet Tress McNeil, who does the voice of Dot, but also has been on The Simpsons since the beginning. Does Daisy Duck, does Babs Bunny, does all these different voices, and she was wonderful. A wonderful person. Yeah, I don't know how many iterations of Jimmy Neutron there have been, but Rob does the voice of Carl Weezer.
Wait, sorry, this is unrelated, but somebody asked Dan question. Obviously, by the fact that I just said it was someone asked. Is First Enoch, 1 Enoch, a flat out forgery, and how did it come along?
Well, it's not what it. Yes, in the sense that it is absolutely not an account from before the flood. It is.
What?
It is compiled from a series of different books, 5 different books to be specific, that date to the Persian and the Greco-Roman
I'm so
period.
sorry. This is definitely from before the flood. It
Well,
survived
even
the flood because God, but that's fine.
one of the reasons that it's not in the canon is because early Christians were like, hey, it seems unlikely that this
I don't know.
survived.
It seems weird to me, bro. But all right.
and then also there are internal contradictions because you got 5 different books and
All right,
they're telling the same story over and over again.
But so do many books in the Bible. So like that.
Yeah.
All right. But yes, continue. Sorry.
But if you hang on just a second, let me find it.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just, Oh, Dan is wearing shorts. What is happening?
Oh gosh, you saw my shorts?
Sorry, not to be totally weird.
I don't
also
want to be in the
weird.
Right.
It snowed here 2 days ago, so yeah.
There's a what is it called? The Hermeneia translation. So Hermeneia commentary series is my favorite commentary series. That's the best critical commentary series, in my opinion, in the world. But for some texts, they've also released a translation because for each volume, the scholars produce a translation. So if you want an accessible, pretty cheap, I think it's like $19. Translation of First Enoch. There's not really any commentary in here. There are translation notes here and there. But this is probably the best you can do right now. But George Nicholsberg and James Vanderkam are the leading scholars on First Enoch. So,
okay, Dan, I feel like I'm hosting a show. What's with Jesus saying, "quote before Abraham was I am"? What does it mean?
So, in my opinion, and I talk about this in the book a little bit, the divine name.
This book, anyway. Continue.
Well, I don't see any money from it. You can just get the PDF for free.
That's sad. I wish that you did. So I'm not saying this because he's going to make money. I'm saying it because it's a good book. Anyway.
Yeah. So in the book, the divine name is kind of the communicable vehicle for divine agency. This is what allows a divine image to be vivified, to be activated, and to manifest the divine presence and exercise divine power and authority. In the Greco-Roman period, this divine name becomes more of a communicable vehicle. And so you have different mediatory agents, exalted humans, angels that are saying, I can do what God does because I am an authorized bearer or possessor of the divine name. And this is in Exodus 23, 20, 21, 22. You have God saying, I'm going to send an angel before you who will guide you on the way. Do not disobey him. Do not piss him off, because he will not forgive your sins, because my name is in him. And the idea here is I'm giving this angel my authority to forgive or not forgive sins via the divine name. And so you have this divine name possession as a theme within Greco-Roman period Jewish literature. And my argument is that this is the foundation of Jesus asserting some kind of special relationship with God. And you have that in the hymn in Philippians 2, was endowed with the name that is above all other names. You have it in the Enochic Son of Man tradition. You have it with Yahoel. You have it with Metatron. you have it in a bunch of different places. And so in the book of John, you have these repeated ego eimi statements, which are kind of a coded reference to God's self-identification in the Hebrew Bible. And it's a reference to God's name. When Moses asked God, whom shall I say sent me? And in the Greek translation, it says ego eimi hoon, which means I am the one who is. And ego eimi becomes kind of the code for this is the divine name. So I argue that
allegedly Moses is out here doing a lot of things, but anyway.
So when Jesus in the book of John is out there slinging these I am statements all over the place, the idea is Jesus is claiming to be the authorized possessor or bearer of the divine name, and therefore to be manifesting the divine presence, divine power, divine authority.
I am
so that's my position on that.
Because you're being very serious, and I love it. But somebody in the chat said they never thought they would see Dan caked up. And I am going to barf. Like, just from laughing. Like, I have been containing my laughter and, like, being very serious. Like, yes, you're a scholar. But I'm really cackling at this. That's what's posted. Anyway, sorry to make you uncomfortable. That is the funniest comment I've seen in like a year. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying it's incredibly funny. Great job. Anyway, let's continue. I'm so sorry to do that too, but it's so funny. Like I can't.
Did Jesus believe God had a body? Yes. Everybody believed God had a body until Greek philosophy kind of got in the way. And you have in the 3rd and 4th centuries Christian philosophers being like, yeah, they used to think God had a body, but we know better. Those rednecks.
We're very smart people.
We're much smarter now. We know that that's not philosophically feasible. And so there are some great discussions of that, such as
Oh, I'm sorry.
God and
I feel like I may have mentioned this earlier. It was literally his advisor, and also he calls her by a nickname, so I'm legitimately ill. But that book is great. Also, I would own it, a physical copy, if I could get that cover. But
that's the UK cover.
Yeah, I'm not buying the US cover. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'll spend the American dollars on the thing, but no, sorry, not with that cover. Absolutely not. No.
And if someone does pick up a copy of it, there are 13 line drawings in here. For instance, this one right here, and I drew them. Yes. So, and then we have, and the reason I have the UK one is because this was a gift from Francesca.
Yeah, because you were her protege.
Well, and I also did drawings for the book, but she was like, "Would you be okay if I put a smiley face?"
Would it be okay?
A smiley face in the O and then a halo over top. And I was like, yeah.
Honestly, it would be preferable. Yeah. Like, do whatever you want and send it to me with that cover. Like, I don't care. Like, whatever.
This is the most gorgeous book cover I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And again, it's why I don't own it at this moment, because I can't get it.
Because the US one is red. It's not great. Somebody says, I'm looking for more information on Ugaritic myth.
Yeah, I'm obviously
Simon
very
B. Parker's
about this, but yes, continue. Sorry.
I've read Simon B. Parker's translation. Can you point me in the direction of more resources? Yes, Parker's translation, I think that's called, what does he call it? Ugaritic narrative, poetic narrative. I forget what he calls it. But Nicholas Wyatt has a translation as well that is called Religious Texts. Let me pull up the Religious Texts from Ugarit.
The beard.
Don't what?
Someone said, Dan, don't.
Oh.
And then it said cut, which I like it both ways, to be honest. But you look like a Greek philosopher. Anyway, get back to your point. But I love this a lot. Thank you.
Now, probably the best scholarly approach to at least the Ball cycle are the 2 volumes that Mark Smith and Wayne Petard published, one in the 90s and the other 2008 or 9, something like that. So the Ugaritic Ball cycle, volume 1 and volume 2, is the best commentary on the Ball cycle that's available. Mark Smith has done a ton of great stuff with the Ugaritic literature. Nicholas Wyatt has published a ton on Ugaritic literature as well. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything that kind of Ugaritic narrative poetry. That was Parker's book. Yeah, there's not a ton else that I would suggest checking out apart from those commentaries and stuff.
Unrelated, but if you're up for it, I would love to discuss sort of the sources and how they portray the worship of Yahweh. Like the way in which, so, okay, again, I've been recently learning this, so of course I am like deeply interested in it for the next 12 minutes and then I'll whatever. But like, it's been very interesting to me as someone who has read the Bible over and over and over and over again for many years before I gave a shit. I thought I did, but like I was being force-fed like a narrative that just like isn't real. Like, yeah. So, personally, I found it very, very interesting to realize how each of the sources sort of depicts the way in which they think Yahweh should be worshipped. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. So like one is like, I don't know, just like pile some dirt on the ground and y'all can just like do that here. And then we have one that's like, absolutely not, no way, no how, zero, no, it's one place, one time, that's it. And that was very much like the way it's phrased, and I don't remember where it is because I'm dumb, but it was like, effectively, y'all have been doing whatever you want, like every man is doing whatever they thought was right, and like yada, yada, yada. But actually that's wrong, and we're all going to do it in one place now. And I did not realize this, but like, or at least I was told that sort of phraseology about like every man's been doing whatever the hell they want is very much like that author saying, y'all basically have been worshiping like everybody else. And, or like the people that you're going to dispossess, they worship in this way effectively. And like, you cannot do this anymore. And like, yeah, I guess I just find these like different sources and ways of worshiping and sort of like, I don't know, narratives fascinating because somehow we've collated them into one sort of like idea that just doesn't exist. Like,
yeah,
actually at this point, I'm not even really sure how we think that could exist. But again, I thought it did for like most of my life. So it's not like everyone else is dumb. Now that I'm learning, I'm like, what? Like, what? Anyway.
Yeah, because you have, and this is the univocality impulse. We want it all to say the same thing. And so when authors are saying different things, we've got to find a new way to read it that reconciles everything. And that way to read it that reconciles everything is not what any of them intended.
No, it's a whole other version.
Right. We're producing a new concept that's the point where the reason that it exists is just to reconcile the things that don't agree. And so we're generating new ideas as we try to read the text and through these lenses of inspiration and univocality and inerrancy. And that's why we are changing the Bible as we read it through the different lenses that we bring to it.
I also like, so something I never thought about, and honestly, at this moment, it feels like I never thought about anything ever, but like something I never thought about was the way the Levites are talked about, and how the author, I think it's in the D source, is like, no, maybe the piece. never mind, don't quote me on the source, but I find it, whatever, very interesting how it's like, okay, if you really want to be a priest, and we have one temple now, you can come here, but you have to leave your family behind. You have to want it that bad. And like what my professor pointed out was like, this is actually the text or the author of the text responding to the issues of their time, where like, oh, all right, why would you need a destitute, like the Levites, their inheritance is apparently, or supposed to be, like God, right? But in this version, they have to go to the temple and live there and leave their family behind. And like their family then does what? Like, what are the wife and kids doing? Like, what support do they have? Oh, they don't, like, but we're not talking about that. Okay, fine. I mean, not fine, but like, we're not talking about it in these texts. And I think that it's really interesting how there's this sort of reflexive approach in the authorship of like, okay, you know, like there's one temple, but the Levites are the chosen people. But like when you really think about it, like they're spread out everywhere, like they're living everywhere, and we're just saying like, okay, guy, if you really want, you can come be a priest here, and that's your inheritance. Okay, great. We're not dealing with any of the like complications that come along with what I just said.
And I think this is one of the indications that this is more a literary creation rather than actual on the ground things people are dealing with. And another indication of we see this in the way the temple is described, how you're furnishing the temple. People are like describing measurements that don't work.
Oh, also, where did the gold come from? Y'all just came. Sorry, I asked this in class. Y'all like just came out of Egypt. Where is the gold coming from? Where?
Yeah. And so this is something that's going on. This is a literary creation. It's a bunch of priests saying, well, we should have it like this and we should have it like that, and nobody is looking at the math, because you've got this problem of they're like, it should be a circle, and its diameter is this and its circumference is this, and it's like, that's nowhere near pi.
That's a square.
Like that's not an actual circle you're describing. It's because these were not measurements that they ever had to actually measure out and cut. This was just on paper.
Somebody making it happen.
Yeah. So somebody said,
sorry,
a couple of questions I wanted to respond to. What do you think of the works of Larry Hurtado? Larry was a great guy. I talked earlier about giving a presentation in Atlanta in 2010, and afterwards somebody offering me a job. After that, I went and had drinks with Larry Hurtado and my friend David Burnett, and became good friends with both of them. Larry and I disagree on things related to monotheism and related to Jesus's relationship to God, but he is a phenomenal scholar. Somebody else said they had a friend who wanted to send me apologetic videos or something like that.
No, they said they wanted to make an apologetic video just so you would debunk them.
Well, no, there was an earlier comment that said they had a friend. Oh yeah, I've before I forget, my friend Cameron wants to know the best way to make requests to Dan for apologist clips. He hopes Dan might reply to.
Send them to
me. You can tag me in the videos on TikTok. Like I said earlier, I also have a Discord channel on my Patreon, and I have one of the channels on there is topic requests. So I give priority to folks who are on my Patreon who make requests for me to cover certain topics. So that's a good way to do that. So patreon.com/MAKLELAN for that. And but yeah, I get hundreds of requests a day. And so
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you navigate all of that. Like, really, I don't. I get tagged twice, and I'm like, leave me alone.
It's difficult, but I appreciate it. I couldn't do the work without other people tagging me in these videos and sending me these videos. But if you can tag me on Twitter, you can tag me on Instagram, you can tag me on TikTok. I haven't really been tagged much on YouTube, but I suppose there's a way to do that too. But yeah, if it seems like something that I could make a video about without having to do a 30-minute or 60-minute lecture on it, then usually I will try to do it.
Friend, what the hell is a complutensian polyglot?
Complutensian Polyglot Bible.
I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly.
So Polyglot Bible is a Bible where you have multiple different languages.
Okay, right.
Published side by side. And the Complutensian one, I think, is the first one that was published, and it was published by the I'm just pulling it up online, the Complutense University in Alcalá de Henares, Spain.
Oh, all right.
So it included the first printed editions of the Greek New Testament, the complete Septuagint, and the Targum Onkelos.
It's actually Ibiza. So.
And so my thoughts on it is that it's an important historical artifact. I don't know that it offers anything text critically. There are better texts to consult for text critical questions, but it is fascinating, I think.
Per the chat, someone said, didn't they plunder the Egyptians for their gold? Just got here, no idea the topic. This is not me attacking you, but yeah, it kind of says that. But what it, at least in the versions I've read, it's just go ask them. Just go knock on their door and be like, hey,
yeah,
can I have all of and that's one source, whatever, but it's very funny to me the way it's phrased. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm gonna have to go.
It's not bad.
We've been on for
here for 5 hours, but yeah.
It's been a little over 2 hours, but my girls are now home. My 14-year-old was at a movie, and she's back now, and we've got plans for this afternoon.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yes. The fun fact: the mark of the beast was actually a prophecy about the Mountain Dew logo, hidden in the form of the devil's claw scratches.
No.
The Mountain Dew logo or the Monster Energy drink logo? That's the Monster claw scratches. Hyksos run off with Egyptian gold.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, does anyone know? No.
Not really.
No. Okay.
For text criticism, what books do you recommend for beginners? There's a good one that's called Textual Criticism of the Bible for Students, and I forget who the author is, but that covers the history of textual criticism and then textual criticism of the Hebrew Bible as well as textual criticism of the New Testament, and it's probably 15 years old.
Me too.
Yeah, the much more scholarly and technical one would be Emmanuel Tove's Textual Criticism of the Hebrew Bible. But yeah, that's not for beginners, for sure.
Yeah, good old Emmanuel Tove. I love him.
Yeah, I've done yoga with Emmanuel Tove.
Stop.
And yeah.
Stop. No, I can no longer have this conversation with you. Anyway, apologies to everyone because Dan is very serious and I've been here on way too much cold medicine, just out of my mind saying shit. But anyway, it's happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here.
Happy to be a part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what part, but I realize I may have been rambling a number of times and.
Oh, that's
you know what?
I do very little other than ramble these days. One last question. Dan, a lot of Christian apologetics say that God was pre-incarnate in the Old Testament, but is it actually just angels that are authorizers of the divine name or something else? Yes, it is. Well, the stories are originally about God. And then later on, they were uncomfortable with these stories about God sitting down by the fire and chatting. And so they wrote Malach, or messenger or angel, into the text, and this is why we have kind of mixed up identities.
I actually know that word.
Malach, yeah, it's probably one of the early ones you used. And so I talk about this in chapter 6
Buy his book, people. I said what I said 2 hours ago. All right, sorry, I'm
on my link tree. There's a link directly to a PDF that you can also access. But okay.
How many
I have to go.
Dan from Kevin Bacon.
Bacon.
You don't have to answer that. Just think about it.
I'll think about it. I'll have
a lot of fun.
response later. Yes, absolutely. Let's do this again. Thank you, everybody, for your attention and for the great questions. And apologies if we were not able to get to your question.
You're very kind to say we. It's you. I'm here to interrupt and like occasionally make jokes. But you did great.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you're feeling better. I hope you get back to killing it at the University of Chicago. I would have been very jealous to be taking classes there when I was a graduate student.
Well,
these days I'm
in the area, FYI, as you know, just like say so, because like literally everybody I'm taking classes with, including myself, who is not teaching but is sitting there, would love to have you in the class. And also, you've been brought up, not by me. So, I mean, by me, but also by other people. Anyway.
Well, I have been, I have zoomed in to join classes at some other universities. I visited a campus in Michigan last month. I'll be visiting a few more campuses early next year. So if they ever need a speaker to come to the University of Chicago, I would be delighted
to do leadership for UChicago 101 Club, which is just like posting like intro to religion chats. And I was like, I feel like I was born for this. Also, very don't ever come back here, Heathen Queen.
I don't think I'll have to ask Joel if he's been in a movie with Kevin Bacon. I don't know that he has.
Okay, Dan has to go. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Whenever you're around, let me know. Sit in class.
Will do. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful night and feel better.
Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.